Experiences in Okinawa. Forgot to give a timeline for the last story. This set of experiences was during my time in Okinawa from 2009 to 2011. I was stationed there on Kadena Air Base and lived in an on-base dormitory. There were 3 major occurrences while I stayed in that room. The first of the 3 was the least jarring. My room was occupied by a pair of young men who'd passed presumably during the US occupation way back. They never really bothered anything as they tended to just mill about the small room. At night, they usually settled into the chair by the window and on the foot of the bed. Never really felt anything negative from them, just felt like company. The next one, however, there was a woman who'd wander the dorm. Usually, she came to drunks and gave them pleasant dreams for the sake of keeping it PG. One evening I'd had a bit of alcohol myself, but no more than enough to be tipsy. I felt soft, feminine hands running down my back. A feeling I've had before years prior that like then, I rebuffed. Apparently, she didn't take kindly to my dismissal as after that she appeared more frequently. I would be playing games on my laptop and my room would chill noticeably during the summer. It couldn't have been the AC since that came from the inner hallway. It was sometime after her visitations that another spirit started coming around. I tie these two together due to them almost always appearing together and from what a friend told me later. This presence was another male, both him and the woman were native spirits. He would appear around the same time as her and they would stand opposite one another. His presence was accompanied by the air feeling much hotter than before. I'd end up half hot and half cold in the middle of their stare down. One evening, I laid down to sleep for the night. Shortly after I laid down, I found I couldn't move. I felt a large rough hand on my head and another on my side before hearing the sheets creak as I was pressed into the bed. Of course, I panicked mentally and started muttering in my head, "Get out," and trying to shake myself. It took some time before I wiggled slightly and uttered "Goo." As soon as I said the phrase aloud, I was able to move freely and sprung out of bed. At this time, the light was on but there was seething shadows where the ceiling met the walls. I could actually see them writhing like small tentacles outward. There was an overwhelming presence bearing down on me, so I contacted a friend of mine I'd just been speaking to on TeamSpeak. She came on and I explained the situation. She strongly advised that I did a banishing ritual to get rid of the offending spirit or that she could. Not wanting to make things worse by messing any part of it up, I asked her to do so. She said to put her on the speakers and she read the words. No sooner did she finish than she disconnected abruptly mid-sentence as things calmed on my end. When she came back, a woman's voice screamed from behind her own. She said she'd dealt with the spirit although it had made an attempt at her. That was when she explained what she'd gotten from the spirit. The woman in life had gotten involved with the wrong people and then the wrong forces. They owned her, as she put it, and she came that night to get me for scorning her. The man that I had kicked out, she mentioned him without prior knowledge, had come to protect me from her. He had taken his own life because of her and became bound to her and the earth by custom. I spoke to the man, apologizing for shunting him out as I had in panic. I thanked him for trying to protect me and said that I would honor his passing. As I finished speaking, 3 lights blinked in the air over my bed. The shape of a triangle, first the top point, then down to the right, and lastly across to the left. After that night, I never saw nor felt either of them again. Speaking with my mother, she told me that the lights were his acceptance of the apology, his thanks for my honoring him, and his goodbye as he moved on. The last one certainly startled me but was altogether peaceful. I'm not sure if the two happenings were connected, but they may have been. I was driving back to the dorm from the flight line that night when I saw a shadow blot out my back passenger window. It crept up toward the front passenger window before latching onto the side mirror. I couldn't see so much as I knew that it was swirling in around that window before it slid off entirely. That night in the early morning, I'd woken up with the feeling that I was being watched. As soon as I opened my eyes, I was met with the white eyes of a small local girl staring unblinking into my own. I started with a jump before I felt she was harmless. I shook my head and told her that she could stay as long as she didn't watch me sleep anymore. She wandered away to look around the room as I fell back asleep. Later on, I always kept a bucket next to my computer chair as a small table. I didn't use it as a table then because a small part of me said not to. So as I was playing my game waiting for a call from my mother, I'd feel something gently graze my leg at a steady rhythm. When she called, during our talking she'd asked me who my friend was. I was confused for a moment before she said, "The little girl sitting next to you." She also said she enjoyed watching me play my games. She told me that she'd gone blind and passed away due to an old childhood illness a ways back. She'd been drawn to me as, whatever it might have been, I was the first person she'd seen in ages. After that, I'd more frequently leave the bucket uncluttered while I played games or explained when I couldn't. My other two members of the room that I mentioned were unbothered by her, so I didn't mind her either, so it was me and three spirits in that small room. As I was writing these out, I recalled a couple details. My friend had said that the woman had guided something into the room that night and it had left before I'd gotten her help. The other was that my two resident spirits from prior were nowhere to be found during the incident. Not that I suspect them to have helped nor expected them to, just a curiosity. Scary encounters. Since young, I can see those spiritual things. But this is the first time that it freaks me out that much. It's around 2 years ago when I am in Osaka. I share a bedroom with my cousin. We were given a room at the corner of the corridor as it is the last room left in the whole hotel. Normally, when I go in, I would knock the door, or press the doorbell to make an announcement of my arrival, as I believe that someone is living in another dimension in that room. After doing such routines, I open the door and step into the room with my cousin. The room structure is: on my left is the toilet, cupboard in the right. After the cupboard, there is a luggage rack, followed by a TV, a dressing table with a mirror. In front of the TV, there is a bed. Beside the bed is a sofa. The first thing I did when I entered the room was to put the luggage on the luggage rack and put my shoe out in front of the luggage rack. Then I left to the toilet. By the time I came out of the toilet, the shoe is no longer in front of the rack. Instead, it is beside the rack. Seeing this, I ignored it, thinking that it is a normal prank by those friends. Thinking that, I left the room and went shopping with my cousin and some other friends. At night, when I returned with my cousin, I went bathing, and after bathing, I thought of wearing the bathrobe that the hotel provides for us. But upon opening the door of the cupboard, it gave me a big shock. A friend is hanging on the hanger and asking what I want. Seeing this, I stepped back in shock. This is the first time I have encountered something like this. Immediately, I closed the door and on the TV to give me some security. Soon, it's time for bed. My cousin on a small light in the room, and we both went to sleep. After some time, I heard a sizzling sound in my room, like someone touching a plastic bag. Hearing that, I on the light and look around. but there is no one there. But by the time I turned my head to see the mirror, I was shocked. A lady, with a shoulder-lengthened hair is sitting in front of the mirror, combing her hair. I cannot see clearly her complexions, but I can tell that she is crying. Seeing that, I woke up my cousin and I left the room and made our way to the lobby, hoping that we could change the room. But the receptionist refused to change for us. So we had no choice but to stay in the lobby until the day comes. In the morning, I asked one of them to accompany us up the room to get our luggage. When we arrived in the room, the phone rang. I picked up the phone, thinking it is just the receptionist calling. Instead, it is a lady's voice. It spoke, "Why didn't you return to the room last night? Don't you know that I am waiting for you?" Hearing this, it sends chill down my spine. We are quickly packed out things and left the room without turning back. But before we left, I had a glance at the socket. To my surprise, the plug is not plugged in at all. Meaning, last night, the TV is not supposed to be on at all. What were we watching last night? Recalling this, made me feel that the lady is watching me somewhere and crying as well. Girl from the River. It was on summer of 2012, good time for walking or biking in Japan, because at winter you can't just get out of the house, especially when the snow is thick at around 5 meters on our place. I'm working on a construction company not so far from my apartment. If you will drive it, it's around 5 to 7 minutes, but because it was summer, I'm using my mountain bike that will take about 20 to 30 minutes from work until my place. I always take the road where most people use, less danger and I can see clearly the road. Mostly when going home I'm with my co-worker Kenji because his girlfriend was residing next building near to my apartment. One time, when I'm with him, he suggested to take a shortcut and use the route that will cross the river of Kaminokawa. Not much light there because the light post was not quite near to each other, but there's a part of it that will take around 5 minutes that only the moonlight is your guide for you to see your path. From 30 minutes biking it reduces to 20 minutes because of that shortcut. One time Kenji got sick and take a leave for 2 weeks. It's because I'm not with him, that's why I used the normal road again. But suddenly my girlfriend from Tokyo messaged me that she will be staying on my apartment for a week, which means for a week I have to hurry home so I can see how she's doing. So, I sacrificed for a week using the easy way. On the second day of using the shortcut, I saw a person, dressed in all white, has a long hair around until her waist and she's facing the river. She's sitting on a bench with a light post near to the dark spot of the road. Because I'm in a hurry, I don't really give much attention on her. The next day I saw her again around 8 p.m. This time she's standing on the railings of the river. That's why I can't help but to think what this girl is doing here alone. I don't know her and really Japan has a low crime rate, that's why I'm comfortable that she's safe and decided not to go near her. On the third day I didn't see her anymore on the bench, instead I somehow see her on the middle of the dark spot of the road standing on the railings and facing the river. Because it's dark there, that's why I decided to come to ask her what she's doing there and also to warn her. Around 10 meters away I shout to her, "Konbanwa," which means hello at nighttime. It seems she didn't hear me, so I came nearer, but around 2 meters away I noticed she is not on the roadside of the railings, she's on the other side. That's why I can't help to look where is she standing. When I have a clear look, I saw she was not standing on anything, she's floating on the river and her hair is moving even though there is not much wind at that time. At that point my whole body, including the hair from my wrist to the back of my neck and my head, all stood. I quickly turn back without knowing what is happening. My body is automatically responding to what I'm visualizing at that moment. I can't get focus on pedaling my bike, that's why I decided to push it while running. While running I take a glimpse on her and saw her, she is beginning to turn around on me. It was so dark, and the next light post was around 40 meters away. I run as far as I can without taking a glimpse, thinking she's near my back. The light post got near, but it seems to me it's still 100 miles away. Safely I saw a car coming to me, his light erased the darkness of the road and I didn't see the girl anymore. I told it to Kenji and we decided not to take that road ever again. Lately we figured that spot is where a girl around 17 years of age was hit and run by a car.